We're back.
Happy
Thursday!
There was a small glitch earlier,
Yeah, it
but glad we could fix it. You know what? I'm just gonna fling it
there we
away.
go.
See? Yes, there we go. There we go. Okay, guys. Today's topic is about negative emotions.
Yeah.
And what kind of negative emotion do you feel most often, and how do you handle that? This topic is inspired by a conversation we had with our friend Jeremy, and he was saying something really interesting, that most guys, according to his experience with his friends and all that, most guys feel anger the most often. And even if, say, they're sad or depressed or disappointed, the reactionary emotion
I think you're right.
anger.
I think it's not so much they feel anger most of the time, but they express anger most of the time as a form of expressing emotions.
Yes.
And this was interesting when Xandria brought it up to me, because it occurred to me that in sort of modern culture, right, a lot of men feel like the only outlet for expressing emotions is anger, and that's the acceptable expression of emotion, whereas sort of more vulnerable emotion like sadness or a bit of depression or something, they're feeling down or disappointed, it's not so often expressed in the other way. It's more often expressed in anger as well. And I notice also something that's common these days is that when we see something that we feel is sort of something we don't agree with, we tend to express anger against it. We feel like that's the default and important
especially
emotion.
Nowadays on social media, with everything that's going on, it's like you're fighting for something that you do believe in. It really comes with a lot of anger, and somehow it sort of feels like justice and fairness has to come with a fair share of anger, and that becomes like the acceptable negative emotion that maybe we don't even see as negative anymore.
It's like the way to bring about change is anger. Let's say if we had a huge argument and I really
disagree,
told him or her what I felt, and now I feel like it's resolved. So what we feel is commonly now a lot of us express anger as a way to solve problems as well.
Do you guys feel like anger is one of your most common emotion, or maybe your partner or your parents or even your children? What is the most common negative emotion that you feel or the people around you feel? And when I say negative, I don't mean bad emotion. What I mean is unhealthy or not useful to you or to the people around you. Hi to everybody saying hi. Hi Mira.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi Sabrina. Hi Jazz. You miss me. I'm always here every week. Hi Cindy. Hi Rim. I just want to say hi. Hi Jason. Good to see you. So let us know what negative emotion that you feel most often and how do you handle that. Now, when it comes to, I guess, understanding how we feel towards situation and towards people, it can be very tricky because I do feel like frustration and anger falls under the most common negative emotion category. And the reason I want to talk about this is because when I actually examine my emotion and what flavor, Yuri likes to talk about the flavor of the emotion. What does it taste like? And oftentimes when you are feeling angry, if you go examine the flavor of that emotion, you might find that maybe it is not anger. Maybe it is not frustration. Maybe you're not as upset as you thought you were. Maybe you're disappointed. Maybe you feel let down. Maybe you feel insulted. Maybe you feel hurt. Maybe you feel insecure. Maybe you feel unloved. Maybe you feel uncared for. And sometimes maybe you just doubt yourself, or you feel like your life is a bit meaningless, and then it is quite depressing. And when you go out, anything can trigger us, and what happens is that we feel anger, but I think that there's so many different shades of anger too,
and so many reasons why we get angry. Sometimes it's to protect ourselves, and sometimes it's to feel like someone else is at fault, and sometimes we feel like we are powerless. There's so many reasons why we get angry, and I like to hear from you guys whether like when's the last time you got angry and what happened and how did it end up being for you?
What did you do?
Yeah.
So we are reading comments right now. If you have any questions, this is the perfect time to ask away. Fong Sam here says, hi Xandria and Yuri, hello. Hope to meet you both in person next time. I bought your new book and hope to get your autograph next time. Yes, looking forward to seeing you and I hope you enjoy reading the book. Chapter 4 is about letting go of anger and emotions that don't serve us. So, you know, that's actually has a lot to do with today's topic. Tran here says, I often feel worried and sad and don't know what to do with my future. How old are you? You know, I feel like this is an interesting comment that you made. Thank you for sharing with us. I feel like you definitely are not alone in feeling this way, because I get a lot of messages from people who feel the same way that you do, which is uncertainty about their future. And a lot of the people who write in are actually, you know, finishing school or in their early 20s. But also, I think that a lot of the times when we get to our 30s and 40s, we can also still kind of like lost.
I guess it can happen at
any age.
Yeah, all time of life. Yeah.
And I do want to say though, that if you are...
She's 21.
Okay, you're 21. See, so I'm thinking that a lot of younger people are feeling worried and anxious about the future. And one of the key reasons this is happening, I reckon, is because in today's society, there's so much comparison with social media. Back then, when we were teenagers and we were starting out, you know, finishing uni, I guess the expectations or like the goals and the dreams, you know, it wasn't everywhere for us to see, like how other people have their dreams and how other people are living their lives. So our area of comparison is really limited to our friends that we know, or movies or books that we read. And now with social media, we get to see how other people are living their lives. We get to see how other people are achieving things. And I think that also because, you know, nowadays it is about hustling and it's about like, a lot of entrepreneurs are coming out, you know, it's about starting your own business. It's about knowing what you want and about confidence. And I think that as a young graduate, when you finish school, the amount of pressure on like needing to have this successful life is very high. And so I want to remind you that like your life is really full and bright, and it's so much opportunity ahead, where if you stop envisioning what you need to be or what you need to achieve in your life and you just focus on enjoying your journey, you know, without any kind of like, okay, I would say be ambitious and go after your dreams. And if you have a passion or an interest, go pursue it. And I think that if you shift your focus into pursuing learning, knowledge and growth, and examining your passions and examining your interests and putting yourself out of your comfort zone and surrounding yourself with people who inspire you and challenge you, if you focus on that, it would really lessen the worry and the anxiety for your future. Because then you're not focusing on what you need to achieve or oh my God, in 10 years, you know, who do I need to be? And honestly, to tell you, like Yuri and myself, we both studied something completely different from what we're doing today. And so if we had put the kind of pressure on ourselves to be successful or to kind of like pursue some kind of amazing life or lifestyle, I think we'll both be really miserable. You know, Yuri was, he studied engineering and computer science. And started out working in a consulting firm for 2 years and then quit his job, and then now he's in music. And it is not a binary like trajectory.
But I did read something about people quitting their jobs, and I found it very enlightening as well. How about quitting jobs and chasing your dreams are sometimes a matter of privilege as well?
Yes.
Because some people, obviously, if they quit and they fail, like 5 people wouldn't have a home or eat their food.
Yes.
So we have been extremely fortunate to have that opportunity and the privilege to do that.
Yes.
And I want to sort of highlight as well in terms of when you feel anxiety, it's a form of fear, and fear stems from not being in the present, because fear comes from looking into the future, and you think something's going to happen. Oh, this guy is going to jump out of the cupboard and stab me, or I'm not going to be able to find a job. People are going to laugh at me or something, right?
Yeah.
And these are projections into the future. Now, anger, on the other hand, is a projection into the past, because you look at a story that you draw for yourself and you imagine that story. Oh, this person is always taking advantage of me, and da-da-da. It's a past kind of thing. So, disconnecting ourselves from the present is a way to not be at peace, to always be either in anxiety or to be in anger or frustration. So I'm not saying that don't think about the future, plan for the future, but the only time you can plan for the future is right now. Don't live in the future. When you live in the future, then you have a lot of anxiety. You think about what, tomorrow is going to bring, what troubles are going to be there. Just plan for them. Oh, if this is going to happen, this is what I'm going to do. If this is going to happen, this is what I'm going to do. And then live in the present.
Tina here says, I totally agree, but sometimes they cannot avoid. And I think it is part of the human nature to not be able to avoid thoughts and worries and anger and anxiety. Even though technically we know that, okay, there's no point worrying, there's no point being anxious. So I would say a very practical way to approach this is to actually understand what we need and what we fear. Why do we feel like we need to prove how amazing our life is? Because when we're anxious and worried about the future, a lot of the times it's not that you're worried that you can't pay your bills. It's not that you're worried that you can't pay your phone bill, or that you can't pay your internet bill, or that you can't put food on the table. Like Yuri is saying, like a lot of the times when we're anxious and worried about the future, it is a luxury. Like we feel like, we don't really know the meaning of life. We don't know our purpose. Like this is a first world problem. Right? Because when we are just trying to survive and we're trying to feed our family, we're just grateful to have a job. We're not anxious about what's the meaning of life, or what are we going to be achieving, am I going to be successful?
Maybe more functional things you're anxious about, your next meal or your next paycheck or those things.
Correct. Right? And even then on a practical level, you just do what you can, 24 hours in a day, some hours are for sleeping, some hours are for working, and you just do it. Right? And so I think that when it comes down to our anxiety and stress about our future, and we're worried and even sad, it comes from an area of not enough. We feel like we are currently not enough. Okay, and I want to stress that there is a difference between improving and growing as a human being and being not enough. I think we already, when we are born, we're already enough. I've said this countless times in my live chats, the fact that we're human means that we have value. And so I don't think we need to go around trying to seek some kind of significance, right? It's up to you to decide, okay, value yourself and understand that you can grow, and that whatever you don't like about yourself, or whatever you feel insecure about, you can work on it. But at no point, should you feel like you need to be there first. Then only you will be like, yes,
you'll be like a human being.
Yeah,
right?
Not sad,
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of us find sort of ourselves incomplete.
Yes.
And we are all complete as we are, and including our flaws and including the things that we might not be doing the best in our lives, but we need to be present and enjoy being us, right?
Yeah.
And even with our flaws, and even with our occasional bad choices, right? We just enjoy being us, and that doesn't mean that we don't want to improve, right? It's almost, I was having this conversation with Xandria about how people, when you let them do what they want and you don't force them, don't always just want to sit on the couch all day, right? A lot of people think they want to sit on the couch all day, but actually when you give them the freedom to do whatever they want, people tend to want to go and do the things that they enjoy, or they align with, or they feel like they want to do, maybe even self-improvement, right? So, it's only when you feel a lot of pressure that you feel like you don't want to change. So you're not flowing, and the water is kind of stagnant, the river is not flowing, and I think we need to remove all these barriers of how we feel about ourselves, such that we can allow ourselves to flow.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't feel like, oh, you know, be too hard on yourself and say, I'm such a terrible person, or I'm so not there yet, and look at this guy, you know, well, my brother is so successful, or such a good guy, everybody loves him, and I'm just this person who nobody really seems to want to be around, blah 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 blah. And all these conversations are the blocks that we put on ourselves.
Yeah. Bobby here says, I'm so hard on myself. I wish someone showed me how to enjoy being me. Well, this is why I have my one-on-one coaching. You know, if you feel like you want someone to guide you and show you and give you the tools on how to be okay and be content being yourself, and how to grow as a person without stressing out, without comparing yourself, you can email me at xandria@xandriaui.com, and I'll send you the application form to apply. Tran here says, I think you're right. I'm studying abroad right now. My friends almost graduate. I feel a bit left behind when compared to them. Yes, it is a comparison mindset. And I think you have to ask yourself why. Why do you compare yourself to them? You have to understand yourself, Tran. Like, all of us have an ego, like I was saying yesterday, right? And so all of us have things that we need to work on. By default, that we are born into a human being, we have a lot of needs and we have a lot of fears. And we need to understand ourselves, understand our ego, where the ego becomes our friend. And then we go like, oh, you know, I always compare myself, maybe because my parents used to compare me with other people. Or maybe I watch a lot of movies and I feel like I should be more like them. Or maybe I am afraid that I'll get left behind because I feel like my life is not as exciting.
Or maybe Instagram makes me feel like everybody is sort of doing so well and I'm just like me, you know?
Yeah. And if you feel like your life is mundane and you feel like your life is not as exciting as the people around you, let me tell you that their life is also equally not as exciting from their own perspective. You know, the grass is always greener on the other side, but it's not just that though. I feel like human beings adapt and adjust really quickly. So for example, if we were to strike the lottery and win like $100 million, you know, I think the first week or month of our life would be, yeah, super amazing. Yeah. And then day, 32 will be feeling emotionally.
Oh, yeah, you know, this guy keeps asking for money. Should I do this? or you know, what if I lose all this money? Blah, blah, blah.
Or even if there's no worries, you know, even if there's no stress, it'll feel normal.
Yeah, you feel normal.
Like, we won't feel like our life is like, wow, super amazing, super exciting. So all the like rich people that you see on social media, or all the like good-looking people
with
you
all
see,
the stuff that you want, you know?
Yeah, like the career is amazing. Like, they don't wake up every day feeling that their life is super amazing. You know, I guarantee you, and this I know from talking to people who are very successful, they can wake up every day and feel like, oh my goodness, you know, I feel really down.
So this is very interesting because you see the language that we use as well. That you talk to people who are very successful.
Yes.
But for us, the term of success, what does it really mean, right? So for us, success is this, to be able to live with harmony with life, not with the kind of things that we experience, whether it's seen as positive or seen as negative, you know, things we want to make the most of all the experiences that we have and all the relationships that we have, and including the relationship with ourselves. And I think that's one of the terms of success for Xandria and myself.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what we seek, and maybe if we can find more alignment with that way of success with life, being kind to people, having good relationships with people, being kind to ourselves, having good relationship with ourselves, then we will find success.
Yeah. What emotions do you feel most often? What emotions do you feel like, you know, it makes you unhappy and it creates a lot of friction and tension? Is it anger? Is it stress? Is it worries? Is it anxiety? What is it that you feel the most often, and how do you deal with that? Yeah,
do you snap at the people closest to you? You know, do you push them away and then pull them in and push them away again? You know, what do you
or
do?
Is it like a downward spiral of you feeling bad about yourself in your life, and then it just goes, you know, round and round and down and down. And I think that's really easy. You know, I feel like upward spirals are also easy, downward spirals are also easy, because when we have momentum, when we're already feeling, so you feel angry, right? It's really easy to feel even angrier. So, you know, as soon as there's the little like flame, you know, it's very easy to fan it and
it's like a train that keeps on building its momentum, right?
Yes.
Once it builds a certain speed, it's really hard to stop. It takes a long while for it to stop.
Yes, and like stress is the same. Like Reem here is saying stress, right? And the question is why? Why? You know, I made a video about how we human creatures seem to welcome in stress like it's normal. Like, oh, you know, like, oh, to work hard, you know, to be successful.
Stress is a marker for I'm heading towards success.
Yeah, or it means I'm busy.
Yeah.
You know, it means I'm being productive. So stress, like Janice, what are you stressed about? And do you want to continue waking up every day or living your life with this kind of stress over you all the time? If not, how are you going to change that? How are you going to let that go?
Yeah. You know, just something I want to add, and I did mention just now about being in the present and really not being so anxious about the future, right? Is to also be really appreciative of, like Xandria said, you know, even if you make $1 million and strike the lottery 30 days later, you might feel like, you know, normal. And about what we have right now that's so amazing, that we have legs to walk upstairs, and wow, this 10 long things that we can do things with, you know, pick things up and point
He means
at
fingers.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Sometimes you're so used to the idea and the word, you say fingers and table, and they kind of lose their specialness, right?
Yeah.
And you look at them from this other point of view that, wow, I can move things and manipulate things and do stuff. I can, you know, zoom into my pictures, right?
Yeah.
And to appreciate those things, the fact that we have internet now and we are talking to you guys and you're watching us, right? It's this amazing thing.
It sounds like super logical, like, oh, so easy, you know, common sense, be grateful for the small things. But when we're actually stressed out, it's very hard to even focus on what we are grateful for, because the feeling of stress and frustration is so big.
It's the big thing.
Yeah, it's so big. Yeah. It's like, whoa, you know, it's like on us, and it's so heavy that any kind of like light and joy and spark gets like poof, eaten up, you know, by the cloud hanging over us. Radha here says, I push them away and keep things to myself, thinking I may hurt them with all my negative emotions. You know what? I think that like it is true that I think that when we ourselves are feeling very negative, it can very easily spill over to the people around us. However, pushing people away is sort of like saying, if my boat has a few holes and water is seeping in, I'm just going to like put a cork in it or try to like put my finger in it for a while, so to stop the water from coming in. It helps for a little while, but over the long term, water will still come in and the boat will start to sink. So I feel like when we push people away, or when we avoid people, or we avoid, you know, anything, it helps because we're just blocking it out, so we don't really have to deal with it. So it does help. But I think that our negative emotions will not go away automatically. A lot of the times, our feelings, you know, our feelings, because it's we feel like our feelings just come and go, you know, like in a way it's true.
Like they happen to us.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
You know, like, yeah, like, you know, it's so easy to sometimes eat ice cream and feel happy, or you know, it's like you feel like positive emotions are so sometimes so easy, it just comes, right? So you feel like in a way negative emotions are also, it should be easy to sort of like let it pass, you know, and in a huge way in life, everything passes, this too shall pass. However, our emotions are linked to our beliefs and our thoughts in our head, and so this is why it sticks. It doesn't just pass, it sticks. So whatever that you're feeling, the stress that you're feeling right now, it is due to something, whether it's due to work, whether it's due to money, whether it's due to your partner, whether it's due to your children, whether it's due to either competition or comparison. There is a reason. Now, until you resolve that reason, that negative emotion, that stress, that anxiety, that depression, it will not just go away.
Yeah, it's like a block, right?
Yeah.
And you're not flowing with what your purpose or the way you feel about life, right? And when that happens, then that's why it manifests as stress.
Yeah. And I think that if we want to remove all the pressure from ourselves and just forget about words like success or purpose or meaning, you know, like like these are all just terms, you know, even self-love, you know, all these are just terms. And I think if you just allow yourself to be human, I think that's probably the most effective way to really just think about our life, right? Like forget about like this whole purpose and meaning and success
and forget about putting yourself on a scale, putting life on a scale, you know, like, this person's eating a beef burger and it's better than my, you know, what, veggie burger or something. We tend to put things, sort of like prices and value to things in life these days, especially more, you know, or how many views does your video have, or how many views does my picture have, you know, and stuff like that. And that gives us a little bit like a scorecard in life, and when you feel like your score is low compared to what society says a high score should be, then you feel very very down on yourself, and you feel like your value is very low. But the fact remains is that your value is the same as any other human being.
There's nobody standing behind you with a whip, you know, trying like saying that, oh my god, you know, you got down from the horse, you're walking, shame on you, you know, whip you back up onto the horse and go plow the field, you know. And I think that like that's how we actually treat ourselves. We whip ourselves because we feel like, oh, you know, we should be this productive and we should be able to be a good husband and wife and brother and sister or child or parent or whatever, and we feel like we should be this and we should be that, and we set all these like conditions.
But what you mentioned about, you know, child, brothers, daughter, son, and all that, right? It is we have to be very aware that the people we love, like, and who love us, like our parents, our partners, you know, our siblings, sometimes can be the people who set that kind of standards for us. Like, oh, you're only loved if you behave this way, or if you don't behave this way, I'm going to sort of like not be your friend or your partner or want to be with you, you know. And that can train us to really pull away from not things that we feel are low value.
And when you say this, it really resonates with me too, because I think in my 20s, I really do believe that there is some kind of benchmark. I thought that, you know, having high expectations means striving for a good life. And there were a lot of rules. There were a lot of rules that I didn't even realize that there were rules. I just thought that that's the way, that's the script, you know, that's the way to have an amazing relationship.
Did you feel like if you had those standards, you also felt like a person who had standards?
Yes.
So that elevated you a little bit?
I felt like because I had standards, that it's fine to also expect so much from the people around me, because I can do it, you know, and I'm giving, you know, like all these amazing things. So I think the person should also give me back all these amazing things. And this is regards to like relationship. And I think also it wasn't like such a surface conscious thing. It wasn't like such clear thoughts in my head about like, oh, Xandria, these are your expectations and why do you have them? Like, I didn't think like that. To me, it was just normal. This is normal. Like, to strive and to be ambitious and to network and to build my career and to make money and to always try to go forward and always try to like be more ambitious and achieve, and I would see like, oh, you know, what have I achieved this past year, you know, what does my life look like, you know, and I would kind of like measure my life that way, right? How good my life is. And so there was very little like appreciation, just like being present, like, oh my god, I'm alive, and isn't that amazing? And
yeah, I think, you know, that ties to sometimes some of us are looking for sort of satisfaction and also looking for happiness. When I say happiness, I don't mean sort of like what I was defining as success just now, sort of like this harmony with life, right? Sometimes we can get addicted to sort of a form of pleasure or a form of ego that we think is happiness. Like, you know, oh, when people praise me all the time, I'm super happy. Yeah. But that has the other side of the coin. When people don't praise you or when people criticize you, then you get really unhappy. Yeah. So for me, how do you measure what is sort of like true happiness and sort of like the more pleasurable ego side of happiness is that the ego side always has two sides. And when in its absence, you will feel very unhappy. Or in the negative part of it, you will feel very unhappy. But in the other side, you flow with life. And whether it's sort of, oh, if people praise you, great. If people don't praise you, great, right? And it's not having this sort of block towards life and say, no, I don't care. My heart is stone cold, you know? It's not that. It's more about, it's like water, right? Is the river happy that it flows? Well, it just flows.
I think what Yuri is trying to say is just basically when like things happen and they're not so cool and they're not desirable and it sucks and it's challenging, you're like, okay, right?
Yeah, it can
like,
be good
okay,
too, right?
Like, it's okay. Like, I'll just deal with it. Like, I'll deal with it, right?
Yeah.
And when you have an amazing time with your family and you have an amazing time at work and everything is going well and you're on holiday and all that kind of stuff and you're like, okay, you know, you're not like, oh my God, my life is so amazing. You know, you're like, okay, you know, regardless of whether it's really shit or it's really amazing, you inside, you're okay. You're just like, okay.
Like one of Xandria's most popular videos, the one I spread the most and watched the most is Good, Bad, Who Knows?
Good, Bad, Who Knows?
And it's exactly that, because if we label everything as sort of like, oh, this is fantastic, or this is terrible, then, but the truth is, we don't really know whether it's good or bad. And if we insist on saying that this is great and this is bad, we are the makers of our own unhappiness, really. Right? But if we see the world as saying, who knows? I'm just flowing. Then you find a lot of peace.
And also it comes from like our mindset perspective on what life actually is as well. Like if you think that life is supposed to be enjoyed, and then obviously when you're sick it's not enjoyable, you know, when you get fired it's not enjoyable, when you don't have enough money it's not enjoyable, and so then all this will be super torturous, you know, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm so depressed, my life really sucks.
Yeah, imagine if you lost your job, you got fired, right? And then the next day the building collapsed, right?
You're like, thank God I got fired, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, everybody in there died and I escaped.
Who knows, right? So the thing is, if you had a choice to think about how you want to as your story, right? Yeah, right. I mean, it's terrible, but you know, but who knows really? Who knows?
So like, don't have all this like, don't put yourself into this like box, this square box, you know, and your life has to look like a certain way. The picture has to be painted a certain color. Yeah, you know.
I want to give an example, right? About sort of flowing, right? It's like sometimes we feel like we're stuck and we don't know what to do, or we don't feel like doing a certain thing, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when that happens to me, what I do is I try to be extremely present and not think about the story I have in my head. Like, oh, I'm doing so well. Oh, this thing's so terrible. Oh, I did it great last time and now I can do it as well. All these stories, right? I try to sort of say, you know what? Let's just breathe and be present and let the stories go. And when I find that when I reach that point, I act without this baggage.
Yeah.
And I act, and sometimes I do the thing that I thought I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Because I was pushing so much again. Oh, I know, I hate it, and just people are forcing me to do this thing.
Like it's so tedious.
Yeah.
It's going to take so much time.
Tedious, and you know, I never like this kind of things. And
it's like washing the dishes.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes when I say, let's have no thought, let's just be, and then I wash the dishes. It wasn't hard. I just did it, and sometimes I don't. And it's fine too, and that is the thing. But you got to not get in your own way.
I feel like at the core of us human beings, we're always seeking pleasure. We're always seeking shortcuts. We're always seeking shortcuts to pleasure, basically. And so this is why procrastination comes into play as well, because we want the shortcut to be able to feel good about ourselves. And when we have a task that we find daunting, we would rather not do it. We would rather procrastinate
sorry.
Yeah, because we want to access that pleasure straight away.
We used to what's the word? Instant gratification, right?
Yes.
So we always want to feel good. We don't want to feel bad. So we have so many options for instant gratification now. Yeah. We can look at our feed. We can check our email. We can watch a little video. We can do little things. Have a little snack. You know. and all these things. Yeah.
Patrick, I'm so glad that you liked the video. Yay! Patrick here is talking about the poem that I shot facing a mirror. A friend shot it for me actually, and I really enjoy shooting it. So I'm glad you enjoyed watching it. Yay! I'm so glad that you appreciate the video because like I was like, oh, something different. It was so fun. There was a comment earlier from Nora, I think, about expectations. Yeah, Nora here says, I think before expecting others, he or she should be able to be good enough to fit into the shoes before expecting so much from another half in a relationship. You know, and I think this is like, I would say level 1 of wisdom progression. Not to say that you're not wise. I'm just saying that like, I used to think like this. And so I used to be like, oh, you know, I have high standards. And I think that like, it's okay to expect other people to also meet those standards because I'm giving. So I should, you know, I'm giving as good as I want to get, so it's fair, right? And then level 1, like I go 1 up, right? Which is like, okay, you know what? I have to make sure that I'm actually that good before I expect the person to be that good, okay? But it's not super wise in a way, and it's not conducive for happiness because ultimately, when you go to like level 2, level 3 of understanding yourself, you realize that, hey, if you're amazing, right? If you're an amazing painter, for example, and you're really good and you know that your standards are very high, like, oh, you sell a lot of paintings and they're very expensive, then is it logical that you can expect now, okay, since I'm already as good, right, as I think I am, I prove that I am good, you also must be as good lah because, you know, I'm already, I fit the shoes, you know, I really am good. So you better be as good, you know. Like, it doesn't make sense.
And also, like, what are you good at? Like you say, oh, I'm so good at, imagine like, let's say, I'm really good at speaking really loud, right? So I expect you to speak really loud and meet my standard of what I think is great, you know? All you soft speakers out there, you know, I'm above you. And you decide that what you have is above everybody else.
And so even it just come back to like things like kindness, okay, or patience, or generosity. Let's talk about generosity. So it's kind of like if I think like I'm a very generous person and I feel like I fill the shoes of a generous person, then maybe it's okay to kind of expect you to be generous as well because I'm so generous, right? But it doesn't make sense too because that's your life. You are generous, you are kind, you are compassionate. What has that got to do with somebody else?
And this is interesting because I read about this thing called spiritual superiority, where we tend to say, oh, I'm more spiritual than you, or I'm more, woke, I'm more generous, I'm more kind than you, right?
I am wiser, and therefore you should listen to me.
Right? And all these aspects, right, already place a limit on our wisdom because we are saying that, oh, everything is placed on a scale, including ourselves, obviously, because the world is placed on a scale, right? Yeah. And that is a recipe for obviously not being perfect.
When we start to look at spirituality and kindness and compassion and love and all that as like a goal, like, oh, you know, I have reached this level of like compassion.
I'm platinum kindness now.
Platinum kindness, yes, right? And so, ta-da! So then when I have a conversation with you and you are being defensive and you're unkind, then I get very upset because I'm like, hello, like what I am saying makes sense. Like I am at platinum level kindness.
Or if they somehow say something that makes you think that they think that you are not really that kind. You're like, come on, you know, I help so much people. I just gave 500 ringgit to you know charity last week. Blah blah blah.
Right. So what you're saying is that if you're talking to someone, and you think that you are like super amazing in, let's say, generosity, right? Yeah. And that person is insinuating that you're not that generous, and you're like, what the hell, man? Like I just donated $10,000 to the orphanage.
And this ego comes into play now, and you are living in your ego, and then you are doing all this for your ego.
And this is stress and anxiety, honestly.
Yes, it is,
right?
Really.
Okay, let's look at success and spirituality. Okay? The S and the S. So what is the point of having career success, relationship success? What is the point of having high level of spirituality? What's the point? Why? We need to ask ourselves, like, okay, so if I climb the mountain and I reach the top, okay, then what's the point?
Am I going to be
Am I going to morph into like an eagle and fly away? Like, what's the point? Like, Okay, so
maybe I'll be a happy eagle.
Like in Mulan, like Gong Li, the actress who is the antagonist, yeah, she can turn into a bird, right? Okay, so anyway, coming back to what I'm trying to say is, I ask myself this as well. Like, okay, Xandria, what are you striving for? Happiness, right? What is the point of success in relationships, success in career? Why? Because we want to be happy, right? Okay. What's the point of learning spirituality? Because we want to be happy, right? Right. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we have to achieve that, then we are happy? Or that in the journey itself, the moment we wake up and we're breathing, okay, even when you're sleeping, you're breathing. Even when you're sleeping, you're breathing.
I don't know about you, but I breathe when I sleep.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is with every breath we take, okay, right? Like the song. So every breath we take, this is the moment where we can be happy. This
is the only moment that we can be happy.
This is the point. The point, like, what's the point of everything? It's not the future. That's not the point. The point is right now. Right now. Why are we chasing success, chasing spirituality?
Yeah, like we have the opportunity to be happy now, and the funny thing is we create this story where we can be happy then.
Yeah.
In some unforeseeable future, right?
Yeah.
That, okay, I'll be happy then, or tomorrow, or when this thing is sorted, right?
Or I'll be not stressed when this whole problem ends.
This project is over, or this thing is done, you know? And I think that if, let's say, we're constantly looking into the future to give us some form of happiness, what will happen is we will train ourselves to constantly look further into the future for more happiness. So it's always this carrot that's dangling in front of us, and as we're walking, this carrot is walking with us, and we never reach it, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at more comments.
Let's see.
Okay.
Maria here says people are different at different levels. Other people's normal may not be your normal. One of the wisdom that stuck with me from your book. Yeah, this really actually helps me a lot to really understand that your normal is not the universal normal, which is chapter 2 of my book. And I have a new video coming up, which is also about expectations, is to really understand our expectations. Yeah. Vianney here says,
I enjoy connected spiritually because I'm grateful how wonderful, awesome my God is. I'm not chasing, I'm in awe of his blessing, which is wonderful. You know, when I think many people talk about their version of God, you know, and their experience of spirituality. It's wonderful when you can connect with something in the present and feel at peace. And I think that that's one of the wonderful things about any of our spiritual practices.
I think that our worries and stress and anxiety has a lot to do with wanting to control some aspect of our future, like our life, and also needing to have some kind of proof that things will be okay. And like Yuri says, a lot of our anger and frustration towards the situation or towards people has a lot to do with how we cannot let go of the past. And everything around that, you know, the negative emotions we feel comes down to one thing, and that is the lack of acceptance. We cannot accept us, this person right now. We cannot accept what we're feeling right now. We cannot accept our situation right now. We cannot accept what's happening right now. And therefore our mind does not want to be in the present because we cannot accept what's happening in the present. So it needs to bounce. It needs to go forward. It needs to go backwards. And that's why we create a lot of stress and anxiety and anger and frustration within ourselves.
And you know, sometimes with this stress and anger, and we want to pull people along with the current of where we are. Like, for example, when we want to make a change these days, right? And it's a situation we're unhappy about. Say it's a social situation. What happens is the only tool that we seem to have these days is anger. Let's be angry about this, because it is good that a group of angry people get together and be angry about this thing. And sometimes that brings about an active change, which is fantastic. But what if we can approach a situation like that without anger? Like, the change can be made. It doesn't have to be driven by anger. And that's the thing. Like, I used to feel like I could only do certain things or push a certain agenda forward if I had a bit of anger. And I felt like, okay, then anger is a bit good. It's a useful thing. It gets me to do things that I maybe would not have done. But now looking back at the sort of like, when you're angry, you behave a certain way as well. And you feel a certain way. And it feels a bit, for me now, it feels like poison in the veins. And looking back and saying that, could I have done the same thing without the source of anger? And maybe not then, but now I can. And I feel much more at ease with it. I think the solutions are more open, more possibilities of solutions open up to me, and without having to say, I'm so angry, I got to do something about this. And that's what I find that more of us need to develop.
And for Yuri and myself, that's what we did. We developed that habit. We developed the practice of letting go of what we're feeling and not, be controlled by our negative emotions. It's like letting the ego take control of the car, it doesn't make sense. And we could not even recognize this, when we were in our 20s. All these things never existed for us. We never knew any of these things. We just know that it's not good to be angry, but we don't really know, we're not even aware when we are feeling that way.
We don't even know what the possibilities are. There's only just basically this one possibility, because all we had in our hand was a hammer, right? And then our tool was just to hammer at everything that we faced.
Maria, amazing, fantastic. Okay, I think today's topic is sort of like a sharing more of what negative emotions are basically, and how everything really comes back to what we expect of ourselves and what we expect of our lives, and that creates a lot of stress and anxiety and worry for the future, because we have all these like rules and benchmarks of what we need to be,
and also how having these emotions affect our lives on a very real basis, and how we might actually be in the habit of behaving like that from day to day, and we might actually could be able to find a better place. So to be able to look at ourselves and say, do we act out of anger very often? And if we do we want it to change? If you want it to change, it's extremely possible.
If you want to know how to practice acknowledging and being aware of your negative emotions and then letting them go, you can read my book, and then you can do my happiness program, because my happiness program, the book explains a lot of concepts. It provides a very strong perspective and belief towards how you think about yourself in your life. And then you need to practice, which is where the 30-day happiness program comes in. Week 4 has a lot to do with self-awareness, the practice of self-awareness. The entire 30-day happiness program is a practice of happiness, right? Because happiness is really not just an emotion. And so every day there is a worksheet, there is a video, and there is wallpaper reminders for you to put on your phone and your laptop or your computer to remind you of what you need to practice. Every day there's one different practice. And after you've done all that and you feel like you want one-on-one coaching, you can email me at xandria@xandria8.com, and I can help and guide you through creating the changes that you want. Whatever you're going through right now, you definitely can change what you don't like about your life right now, and you also can change how you're feeling about your life right now.
and build the tool sets and also the mindsets, the perspectives that you can have.
Yeah, we are here rooting for you all the time. Have a fantastic week. Yuri won't be on next Thursday, but he will be here next Thursday. But I'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Yeah, I hope you all are taking care of yourselves and being healthy.
Yeah.
And safe.
Take care and be happy always. Bye.